Robberies involving young people on the rise across Baltimore. One council member's firm letter after suspects in a robbery and assault were released shortly after their arrest. Lawmakers in Annapolis holding a hearing on juvenile justice laws this week, while voices across the state argue change can't wait until January's legislative session. And a statement win for the Ravens in the first of 3 straight home games. Highlights from today's rout of the Seahawks as the Ravens move to 7-2.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
And we begin with breaking news downtown. Police say a pedestrian was killed tonight in an MTA bus crash at the intersection of Pratt and Light Streets just before 7 o'clock. The pedestrian was riding a scooter when the bus hit them before the bus took out a nearby traffic light. There are still significant traffic delays around this area at this hour. We're told the bus driver was taken to the hospital with minor injuries. Fox 45 News will continue to follow this developing story, bring you more information. But again, a pedestrian was killed in a crash with an MTA bus downtown tonight. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm Mary Bubala. This week, lawmakers in Annapolis are set to hold a second hearing on juvenile crime. The meeting coming amid heightened safety concerns in Baltimore after a string of juvenile robberies caught on camera.
It's going to be a group of juveniles. They came up in 2 dark-colored sedans, probably some stolen Hyundais or Kias. Southeast, they had similar unarmed robberies with juveniles.
Well, tonight we have team coverage of the youth crime crisis across our state, beginning with Vincent Hill and the rise in robberies in Baltimore. And Vincent, police are calling this a major issue.
That's right, Mary. According to the latest BPD data, robberies involving juveniles up 97%, and that number has officials and victims highly upset.
Youth violence has been a problem all year.
A problematic crime, according to Commissioner Richard Worley.
Robberies, the area that we're seeing an increase.
Many of them captured on video, like this man assaulted and robbed in Butchers Hill.
In an unarmed robbery, 123 South Chester, 123 South Chester.
The suspect description, a common one.
A second hearing on juvenile justice laws after a September hearing left prosecutors, police, and parents frustrated with a lack of answers. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker shares their concerns.
A battle over juvenile justice is brewing across the state.
What we're realizing when we talk to young people is that young people, the juveniles, know there's nothing that we can do.
And it has been for what many say is far too long.
They know that, nothing's really going to happen to them if they keep their crime in a certain limit of types of crime.
Fox 45 News has heard from more than a dozen states' attorneys representing roughly 80% of the state's population.
We do need to expand the list of crimes that we can charge younger children with.
Who say their hands are tied by Maryland's current laws when it comes to holding juvenile offenders accountable.
Even here in Westminster, our county seat, we're seeing like a revolving door. The same juvenile offenders over and over again, coming in the door and then going back out the door to continue to engage in their nefarious activities. There's not a whole lot we can do about it because we're hamstrung by the laws that are in place.
Their words are similar as their frustrations are mounting.
They come in, we can't detain them, they're back in the community the next day. They get picked up for the second one, can't detain them. They're back in the community again the next day.
And it's not just prosecutors sounding the alarm. Police.
We're living in a time where, unfortunately, legislators, lawmakers, have decided that it's better to support the lawbreakers rather than those who are enforcing the law.
County leaders.
It's becoming more and more difficult to hold juveniles accountable.
Even parents are demanding change at the state level, telling us their own children need to be punished for their actions.
They need to stop making excuses. They need to start locking these kids up. They need to change the laws.
It's two laws driving the frustration among the law enforcement and legal communities. The Juvenile Justice Reform Act, which limits those 13 and under to charges for crimes of violence, and says a juvenile under 10 cannot be charged. A prime example uncovered by a Fox 45 News exclusive report. Police arresting an 11-year-old in connection with more than a dozen car thefts across the region, but he never faced charges due to his age. The other contentious law, the Juvenile Interrogation Act, which requires an attorney be consulted when a child is taken into custody and their parents or guardians notified. Just last month, lawmakers met for a virtual hearing to discuss what actions the state's Juvenile Justice Department can take to curtail the violence.
If a crime clearly has occurred, we should allow our officers to take action, and it's frustrating to the community that we cannot.
Head of the Department of Juvenile Services, Vincent Schiraldi, touted the decline in crime among Maryland's youth, but lawmakers questioned whether the statistics are accurate.
Not sure it's because there has been a drop in juvenile crime. I think the numbers have simply dropped because in many cases, police officers have not brought charges in many cases.
After 5 hours of questioning, there was no commitment to change. And now, as another hearing is set to take place Wednesday, the hope is the voices of police, prosecutors, and parents will finally be heard. In Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Well, during Wednesday's hearing, state lawmakers plan to hear testimony from the Maryland Attorney General's office, members of the state's Juvenile Justice Reform Council, and the Maryland Police Union to get a better grasp on the issue ahead of the next legislative session. And that brings us to our question of the day. Do you think the Maryland legislature will address the juvenile crime crisis? So far, 95% of people who voted say no. You can weigh in by going to foxbaltimore.com/vote. Opening statements are expected tomorrow in the federal trial of former Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby. She's being tried on 2 counts of perjury at the federal courthouse in Greenbelt. Mosby will face a separate trial for 2 charges of making false statements on loan applications. That trial date has not yet been set. Fox 45 News will be at the federal courthouse throughout the trial. We'll have complete coverage of the case every day. Be sure to download the Fox 45 News app. Turn on notifications to get breaking developments even when we're not on air. Coming up, Fox 45 News continues to demand answers about the Safe Streets program. Why one community leader says Safe Streets is being intentional about what she calls a lack of transparency. An Israeli airstrike hits a refugee camp in Gaza as the fighting continues to escalate. Why the White House is calling for that humanitarian pause.
And after a beautiful day spent in the 70s, a beautiful sight tonight, perhaps, we've actually had some reports of the aurora borealis being able to be viewed, even places as close as Ellicott City. I've seen some photos on X, formerly as known as Twitter. Some great viewing conditions, 50s falling into the 40s. Take a look north near the horizon. Maybe you could see it in the dark skies. I'll let you know how warm things get this week in a couple of minutes.
Fox 45 News is continuing to demand answers from city leaders about the Safe Streets program after the FBI conducted 15 raids at various Safe Street sites, including the homes of 3 employees. Mayor Brandon Scott says he supports an audit of the program, but not without a voter approval process. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost pressed the mayor on why he's not calling for an audit now.
The voters of Baltimore voted to have audits, and they voted to have them in this way. And I can't direct the Department of Audits to do that because they don't work for me. We have you
can tell Monsey to do it.
We've talked to the comptroller, who is in charge of doing audits for the city, and he and I agree that it should be done, and we're going to do it the way that the voters, the residents of Baltimore, said it should be done by the comptroller.
When you come out and talk about audits, but then you want to kick the can, it gives the implication there's something to hide, and you have time to hide things too.
Most city council members support an audit, but as of right now, they do not support an independent investigation of the program. The council could play a larger role in figuring out what's going on. So we sent questions to all city council members, including should city funding for Safe Streets be suspended until there's an audit or investigation of the program? Will you pass a resolution to review how nonprofits spend tax dollars? And do you trust LifeBridge and Catholic Charities with your tax dollars? Community activist Shannon Wright joined us on Fox 45 Morning News, saying Safe Streets' structure is confusing by design.
It's almost as if the structure was built to be deceptive. Because if it was a city program and it was coming out of the mayor's office of safety and community engagement, coming out of Monsey, if it was all under that one umbrella, there would be accountability. There would have to be. But when you start making separate umbrellas, it's to be able to hide things.
Well, we have also been pressing Monsey and its community partners, LifeBridge Health and Catholic Charities, about how Safe Streets hires its workers. Last week, Living Classrooms, which used to run the Bel Air Edison location, answered our questions about hiring, saying in part, the recruitment and hiring process for all Safe Street sites is led by Monsey. Catholic Charities has given us a similar answer. However, Monsey has said it provides technical support to the nonprofits, but the community-based organizations are the ones that hire employees after multiple rounds of vetting and passing a hiring panel. We know Safe Streets hires former convicts, but several employees were then charged with crimes while working for the program. Ronald Alexander was convicted of distributing drugs in the communities he was tasked with protecting. According to police, he also tried to use his status as a Safe Streets worker to hide his drug dealing. There's also the case of Ronald Brady Jr., accused of killing Damon Scroggins in September of 2019. That case went to trial in 2022, but ended in a hung jury. Brady was ultimately acquitted back in March. Scroggins' family highly critical of the Safe Streets program, calling it a criminal enterprise.
My belief is that our city government is financing a criminal enterprise. I believe that within my heart. Our city government is so invested in it that it's turning a blind eye to what it really is.
Fox 45 News will continue to demand answers about how the Safe Streets program works. You can find all of our previous reporting and follow along as our investigation continues on foxbaltimore.com.
Well, first things first, potential aurora viewing tonight. I mentioned it before the break. We've had some pictures from the cause is what we call a G3 solar storm that's going on. So that's actually created some intense solar activity that's interacting with Earth's geomagnetic field, and therefore we do have some aurora that's actually been viewed, at least I saw it on Twitter, on X, I guess it's called now, as close as Ellicott City. So take a look north, and also right near the horizon in some dark areas, more rural areas, you'll get a good chance of potentially seeing that. And if you see it, send me a picture. Dry, cooler for the day on Monday. Up and down temperatures coming this week. And then the next weather maker looks like it's here by the end of the week towards the weekend. And we have a big cool down in time for Veterans Day. 54 clear skies as we take a look up at our skies for that aurora. That 54 accompanied again by clear darkness here on the Mile 1 Tasicam. The winds are calm and our humidity at 59%. Temperatures today just so warm. 74 degrees here in Baltimore, 69 at Bel Air, 68 at Westminster, 70 at Frederick, and 71 at Annapolis. Could even get away maybe with the shorts and short sleeves. But things are going to be on the fall for tomorrow. Actually, real fluctuations coming over the next couple of days. It's going to be kind of hard to figure out how to dress as tonight we drop through the 50s on into the 40s as we're doing right now. And then for tomorrow, it looks like winds are going to switch easterly, although you don't really see any signs here of that happening on the HD radar, any rain or anything like that. There's just a little batch of cloud cover that's off to our north. That's kind of a signature of a little front that's trying to push back south and southwest, which means as we head into tomorrow, it's sunny. It'll be seasonably pleasant, but not the 74 we had today with the winds coming off the cooler Atlantic and Chesapeake Bay. It looks like temperatures going to struggle in the low and mid 60s. So overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, dropping to right about 40 degrees or so. 8 a.m. we're in the low and mid 40s, so it looks like jacket weather, sunglasses weather for tomorrow. But yeah, the temperatures, again, the winds coming off the water temperatures here in the 50s. They're going to have a hard time making it out of the low to mid 60s at best. And we're going to have a couple of these fluctuations this week. We're going to kind of toy with this little front that doesn't have any rain with it, but a wind shift, which is going to mean all the difference. 41 degrees, mostly clear skies for tonight. There's that easterly wind for tomorrow, 62, bright and cooler. Look at Tuesday. The wind switch westerly again. We're at 73, switching back to the east again on Wednesday, back to 62. And then Thursday, one more time at 72. Spot showers on Friday. That's our next weather maker. Clears out, breezy, kind of blustery sunshine for Saturday, Veterans Day, 58 and 57, and sun for Sunday.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in the Middle East right now, saying the Biden administration supports a pause in the Israel-Hamas conflict to allow humanitarian aid into Gaza and allow Americans to get out. An estimated 400 Americans are still stuck in Gaza. This comes as Israeli airstrikes killed at least 50 people at a refugee camp in Gaza this weekend, according to local health officials. Well, here at home, there's a growing divide between Democrats and Republicans as to how Israel should move forward. Democrats want a pause in the fighting, while Republicans say that would cater to Hamas. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has the fallout.
A mob of protesters swarming the White House Saturday evening, heckling Secret Service agents,
America wants Palestine free!
Rattling the iron gates, leaving red-painted handprints behind.
My message to President Biden is, I voted for you, and I regret it.
Following Hamas's October 7th terrorist attack that killed 1,400 Israeli men, women, and children, President Biden staunchly argued Israel has a right to defend itself, a right to go after the Hamas terrorists, promising rock-solid and unwavering support from his administration. Now he's calling for a humanitarian pause, a move some see as the president bending to pressure from progressives like Rashida Tlaib. Tlaib releasing a video accusing Biden of supporting genocide.
Mr. President, the American people are not with you on this one.
We have got to stop the bombing now. You got a humanitarian disaster. It has to be dealt with right now.
The White House clarifying a pause to get aid into Gaza is different from a ceasefire. Republicans standing against any demands for Israel to pause its war effort.
I think this is total war between Israel and Hamas. I want to protect innocent people as much as possible, but I want the world to realize that the radicalized population in Gaza has been going on for over a decade.
Meanwhile, Kamala Harris's stepdaughter is raising money for Gaza while ignoring Hamas's massacre of Jews. Former President Barack Obama also weighing in on the conflict.
Nobody's hands are clean. All of us are complicit.
Senator Tim Scott slamming Obama's comments, calling him dead wrong, telling Politico, from Obama to Biden, Democrats have a problem. Supporting Israel always has an asterisk. Israel continues to resist U.S. calls for a humanitarian pause, saying it wants the more than 200 hostages Hamas took during the initial attack back first. I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting.
Still ahead, an attempted kidnapping in St. Louis caught on camera, how a toddler's parents were able to thwart the suspect. An attempted kidnapping caught on camera in Missouri. Take a look at the man in the gray sweatshirt seen approaching a young couple and their child. He then suddenly tries to snatch the 11-month-old away before the father steps in the way. Police say the suspect ran away, attacking an 82-year-old woman farther down the street. This apparently isn't the first time the man's been harassing people.
We had some brief dealings with him on a previous incident. Our homeless outreach team has engaged this young man on a handful of times, trying to get him into services because he appears to be homeless.
Nearby Washington University in St. Louis sent a memo out with his face on it after 2 students were attacked on campus just 2 weeks ago. The suspect has been seen wearing the same gray sweatshirt in both incidents. Hundreds of Americans still stuck in Gaza as some people urge Israel to stop its attack while the U.S. works to get more people out. Why some experts disagree with that strategy, that's ahead on Full Measure. Many Americans are still stuck in Gaza or being held hostage in the Middle East. Some are calling for a ceasefire until those Americans are out, but others argue that's a move that will help Hamas. Full Measure, Cheryl Atkinson spoke to a member of the National Security Council about this potential dilemma.
What can you tell us about the status of U.S. citizens who were in Palestinian-controlled Gaza?
So the president had a significant breakthrough this week where he negotiated directly and with our partners in the region for wounded Palestinians and foreign nationals, including American citizens, to be able to get out through the Rafah crossing, which is between Egypt and Gaza. There's roughly 400 American citizens. We're trying to get out, and it is slow going, but we feel really good about it, and we are excited to have had such a breakthrough, though.
Are any of the Americans, as far as you know, physically being held by Hamas, or is that a separate group?
There's a separate group that is, yes. So there are, I think, 10 Americans who are still being held by Hamas. They are the president's absolute top priority, and we have been working really hard to be able to get them out. It's really fluid situation on the ground, so it could take many days. For now, we remain optimistic that it will take a few days.
While the U.S. mulls over the path forward, there are active assessments underway to try to understand how both Israel and the U.S. missed all signs that a major attack was coming. John Hanna is a senior fellow with the Jewish Institute for National Security of America and a former national security advisor who's worked under Democrat and Republican administrations. He largely blames U.S. policy toward Iran for emboldening the Islamic extremist terrorists of Hamas. So you believe Iran is the main factor behind these terrorist groups and the actions they're taking in Israel today?
There's no question that Iran has built a network of terrorist armies across the Middle East, including, in this case, Hamas, which it has armed, trained, and funded right up to the minute of October the 7th, 2023.
Do we know how Iran specifically funds these terrorist organizations?
They do it through a lot of illicit activities and oil sales that, unfortunately, in the last several years, the Biden administration has really taken its foot off the pedal of enforcing the maximum sanctions that President Trump had instituted after leaving the Iran nuclear deal.
How concerned should we be that an event this big was missed by our Israeli and U.S. intelligence capabilities?
Oh, I think this should be a 4-alarm fire, as much of an alarm as 9/11, as after 9/11 for the American people and the American intelligence community. It was a striking failure.
Both Israel and the U.S. say they are currently engaged in a crucial look back to find out how their intelligence structures could have missed signs that a major terrorist attack was being organized against Israel. For Full Measure, I'm Cheryl Atkinson.
Defense, offense, and an undrafted rookie shine in the Ravens' dominating win over Seattle. Morgan and Rocco break it all down coming up next on Sports Unlimited. That's all for the news at 10. I'm Mary Bubala. Thanks so much for watching. Morgan Atzett and Rocco DeSangro join us now with Sports Unlimited. Morgan and Rocco.
Thanks, Mary. Come tonight on Sports Unlimited. The Ravens are breaking away from the pack in the AFC North at the midway point of the season.
Yeah, Morgan, through 9, they are 7-2 and on a 4-game winning streak. Fans have to
they
love
look
that.
pretty good. Yep, that would be because of total domination in one major area on offense. The Ravens' run game, their best performance of the season, coming courtesy of rookie. Welcome to the NFL, Keaton Mitchell.
Welcome indeed. Defense wins championships, and the way the Ravens' defense played today should be enough to put the rest of the league on notice. Much more in the dominating performance over the Seahawks.
And another big performance this Sunday afternoon. Towson women's soccer will change out their cleats for dancing shoes. A huge program first when Sports Unlimited starts after this.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Sports Unlimited. She's Morgan Adsit. I'm Rocco DeSangro. It's home sweet home finally for the Ravens in Week 9, Morgan.
Yeah, no more overseas travel. The trips out west have a break. But these next 3 weeks, the backbone for the Ravens as they enter the second half of the season. 3 home games and 11 days time. The biggest 2 come next week in the AFC North. But first, Seattle, a little sleepy of a game early on. 3 minutes left in the first quarter. Biggest play of the game so far, Lamar Jackson, 16 yards, Isaiah Likely. The Ravens tight end heating up, takes us to the second quarter. What else is new? Gus Edwards punches in the score, 4 yards up the gut. It was 7-0 Ravens. And then safety Marcus Williams inactive. And I think we're seeing some issues here with the highlights. But let me see where we are. There's Likely again. Let's see what happens after this. Here we go. There's Gus Edwards punching in the touchdown. And then we're going to see a little bit of Real. Next up, Lamar Jackson, though, going to give it right back. Sadly, he is automatic this season with fumbles, O-line. A little bit of blame there. Balls out. Jackson's 9th fumble this season, 6th loss. Seahawks can't do anything with it. Then undrafted rookie, the story of camp, but he's been injured. Keaton Mitchell takes over with this drive. Carries of 11, 9, 9, then 8 to get down to Seattle's 25. Mitchell did the work. Edwards gets the reward, his second touchdown of the game. 3-yard punch in, 14-0. Recovers. Seattle in business until this Kyle Van Noy sequence gets the sack. And then the very next play, strip sack. Broderick Washington recovers. The Ravens had 4 sacks in the first half. Justin Tucker added a field goal at 17-3 at the break. The Ravens put this to bed in the third quarter with only points of the game. Justin Tucker, 2 field goals from 37 and 45 to make it 23-3 Ravens. And then the nail in the coffin, Keaton Mitchell continues his NFL coming out party. His first carries of the season came in this game thanks to finally being healthy. The undrafted rookie, there's the burst we all have seen during camp.
Been a lot of things going on in terms of challenges to preparation, different travel, different things, injuries, and guys have just done a great job of fighting through that. keeping our eyes straight ahead, no turning to the left, no turning to the right, and just doing the best they can do. And it showed up today in a total team effort, and that's what it was.
The Ravens did it with their defense and groundwork, 37-3. The Ravens D only allowed 151 yards, 28 on the ground, compared to the Ravens run game, 298. Could have been more, but the kneel downs took yards off, with the rookie Mitchell over 100 yards in a game when he got his first NFL carries.
The Ravens defense was not happy after allowing 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns. By the one-win Cardinals, Roquan Smith even said that performance was not up to the team's standards. Sunday's win over the Seahawks, that was more like it. The Ravens held Seattle to a season-low 3 points and 151 total yards. And they sacked Geno Smith 4 times, forced 2 turnovers. For more on what's allowed the group to play at such a high level, here's Kyle Van Noy.
We have a lot of guys on this team that have chips on their shoulders or come from different backgrounds, whatever you want to call it, that are buying into each other, that believe in each other, and it shows on the football field. I think you guys come to the locker room every day. You guys see that. We're a tight-knit group. We hang out with each other, and it's been fun.
Running back Keaton Mitchell was the story of training camp. His dad winning a Super Bowl with the Ravens helped that. But really, it was just his speed and standout talent this summer